Hello, hello. Good morning, good evening. Because it's almost 12:07, so first day of the month went by. What is Abba bringing to us? Again with divine justice, okay? I'll roll what he rolls. He brought up Isaiah 13 from the KJV version 16:11. And the summary says that it presents a prophetic burden or oracle concerning the total destruction of Babylon, acting as a type of divine judgment against human pride and wickedness. Wow. The end of Babylon's power, that brings back to memory a prophecy that I did based on a vision that I saw about the tower falling. Let's see what he has in mind. So for now, I just want us to sit for a moment and breathe. Today, few things have presented, not that concern me, but that have been highlighted today. And it's the way that we are taught on how to supposedly have a good partnership with the person that you love. Unfortunately, we are brought by structures of conditioning where we see how our parents and our family interacts with their partners. And the majority of the time, we're seeing the external. If you guys hear a buzzing sound, light, we had a power outage, and one of my USB connectors is just making a weird electric sound. So I'm not sure if you guys can hear or not. It's like a beeping sound, like a buzzing, regardless of that. So before I lose my train of thought, so yeah, we see how either our parents have their relationships made, or how our cousins, maybe our uncles and aunts, handle their relationships. But what nobody sees is what's hiding behind closed doors, right? In the outside, everybody can look perfectly fine. And that makes you think, because when we're little kids, we imagine that everything is right. That's why divorce hits so hard on the kids, because in their eyes, the perception is they have a happy family. But in the eyes of the parents, there are lack of communication, lack of care, lack of understanding. Therefore, the kids are not seeing that because that happens in closed doors. So if we keep that picture in mind, eventually when parents divorce, the kids go to a rebellion stage in which probably they think that love is fake. It doesn't exist. Therefore, they go around having superficial relationships. These superficial relationships are just a lie and a mask for each one of the person that does it. We all have been there in one way or the other, based on having to grow up in mature emotions so we can actually start discerning more. Somebody doesn't want this message to go out, but it's going to go out regardless. So, what I think Abba is saying when it talks to the burden or oracle on the destruction of Babylon, it's what I've been saying for years now, that the new age of Christianity is going to come to break the mold. I'm not saying that this is going to destroy temples. That's not what I'm saying. It's going to rebuild the church. And the reason why it's going to rebuild the church is because the true walk of Yeshua or Jesus, or however everybody calls them, Christ, right? It's a walk of pure love. And we as humans were never taught what is unconditional love, because either our perception was distorted from the fact that we saw a happy couple, and from a sudden, where mom go, where dad go, right? They separated, and then they start with the fighting, and nobody can get along. And it doesn't happen in every marriage, right? There's marriages that they understand the kids come first, and they don't fake being good to one another, but they know that the kids don't have to pay the consequences, right? It's different. Like in my circumstance, my parents, well, my mom decided to be the grown up, and at certain point she just let go of the struggle and the fight. And I think she did it for just for me to have the experience to continue to see my family, right? But there were things that we experienced that we shouldn't have experienced. Regardless, that marked our path into how we perceive the world or relationships. As soon as you start going under a spiritual awakening, all those lies break down into one truth, and the only truth that is valid. That is that you are who you believe you are. And if you believe you are the things that others have said about you, then that's what you're going to be all your life. But if you can sit down with yourself and the hard questions and open your mind so you can eventually open your heart, then things change. And you don't change for anyone, and that's very important. I know I mentioned it yesterday. Sometimes I say tough love has to be placed out there, but little by little I keep on going and digging in and more in the scriptures, and the way Jesus actually stood in front of people that were in their devilish energies and still had a loving heart. So within the things that was repetitive today was one question that made me smile, because there are moments in life that you have to think twice about things, right? And the question was very simple. If God places your enemies in your doorstep, would you forgive them? And I sat down with the question and I said, I do have a loving heart, but I don't want to place myself in the same situations that I placed myself in the past. So you know how we are overthinkers, and I started going around in circles trying to figure out, okay, what would I do? Da 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 da. Bottom line is, that's the kind of love that is true. Not that we forgive those that trespass us just because we want to be the best persons in the world. It's not that. is that we know deep within our hearts who's true to themselves, who's struggling to become, and who's actually legit. At a glance, people think that we have rose-colored glasses, but we don't. People that understand the depth of unconditional love, they understand that there is a bigger power than what meets the eye. Because we can see beyond the masks of people. People acting tough like I did in my life, right? Sometimes I acted tough and I just wanted to be that little girl. Sometimes I acted like a little girl and I just had to be a grown up, right? It's like I lived my life a little bit different. I had to be a grown up when I was little, and now that I was when I started being like more of age, I started to being like myself, that little kid, not because I wanted to be immature, just because that's freedom. I'm not sure how to explain it that it can come across. I'm not saying that immature emotions are correct. I'm saying that that little inner child that we have within us that never could play needs to feel free and secure to show itself in front of their partners. And one of the most beautiful things that I can understand about life is there's two choices. You either remember who you are and are true to the person that you love. And that's what people say, oh, you have changed. No, you haven't changed. You just stopped being fake, which is totally different. You started loving yourself more and doing more of the things that you like. You stop going into places where you don't fit in anymore because before you did it to fit in and now you don't care about that. You stop caring about what others say because at the end of the road, it doesn't matter what you do, there's always somebody that's going to be against what you do. So why lose our time into faking it till you make it or not being true to who we are? And that is something that when the question was there, would you ever forgive the people that hurt you? I've done it in the past. And as they say, not because somebody deserves it, but because I understand they're humans and I understand that everybody goes to a different part of the awakening at different moments in life. There is a divinity within understanding unconditional love and understanding that putting the other cheek means not that you're going to open the doors to those that come still unhealed. Let me rephrase that. There are things that you have to heal in order for you to feel free and touch your heart to the point that you want to feel okay by opening up. And when I say this, I say it because the majority of the people that have superficial relationships, they have them like that because they're scared of being vulnerable because they have been hurt in the past. I come from different lectures in life where I place myself in places where even when I saw the worst, I still believe in the best. Not because I was naive, just because I was compassionate, but at the same time, I didn't give myself that compassion to go through the motions and understand myself without feeling I would say, blamed for things that either by PTSD or my own unhealed wounds I did in the way. And the good part of this channel is I don't hide the truth. I don't hide the truth because of one simple thing. No one is perfect, and whoever points the finger at us is because they haven't gone through the awakening themselves. So I pointed the finger at myself, and I tell the truth about the things that I've been doing or I have done, not because I want to be recognized for them. It's because there's a lot of people out there that are still feeling ashamed or guilt for battling in between the mind, the heart, and the soul. And for me, that's the biggest beauty in the world. Because when you see somebody struggling within what their heart wants and what their mind is telling them to do, you know there is progress. And that makes me feel proud of everyone out there as well as myself, right? Because we all go through the motions of the emotions until we realize there was no need. There was no need. There is no need to go through the motions relentlessly. But there is one need, and that need is to be honest with yourself. And that is where we as humans fail. Because being honest with ourselves means that mask that we wore, because I'm going to say we because we all did, it's gonna crack. But that is the experience. It has to crack because you wore it for too long and it's not doing nothing for you. You wore it for too long because you didn't feel safe. You wore it for too long because you were always expecting for somebody to be the one that holds you before you fall. And that is something that we need to let go of. That conditioning, that's what institutionalization has, or however you say that word, has promoted and had led humanity into having so much distortion with it, what it is a true family. I always said we have family, yes, parents, cousins, sisters, brothers, but the only person that can form their own household is that one that puts his family first. And when I say that, it starts from the moment that you decide to engage with another person. In that moment that you decide to engage with another person with romantic views, you need to step in your sovereignty and make sure that regardless of what everybody says, you're going to defend your love not by arguing with others, just by doing what your heart is calling you to do. So there's a huge difference. As a seer, as a healer, having the capability of seeing visions and prophetic dreams gives me the ability to see people behind their masks and at times tell people ahead of time what's going to happen. Unfortunately, that is not a gift that is well received because nobody wants to hear that the people they love are the ones that manipulate them the most. But it's not until you wake up from that lie that you understand who has conditioned you to feel that you need to sacrifice for others. There are many things in life, like I once believed that you have to sacrifice things in order to obtain or have a specific outcome in relationships, until I understood that the reason why I was such a rebel is because every time people try to box me in, I will want to break from that box, because for me it was a condition. When I saw myself doing the same thing to another person, I was like, okay, there is a mirror, there is a reflection. What are we going to learn about it? And that's where I became a rebel, not because of what people were saying, but because of the condition I discovered I had. PTSD triggers the body to feel uncomfortable. When my body starts feeling uncomfortable, it triggers the mind to go in overflow. When the mind goes in overflow, you're out of alignment. Therefore, when you're out of alignment, you allow toxic energies to have control over your avatar, right? This is not justifying what happens. It's very different to say that I'm justifying anyone's actions. I'm just explaining it because it's very important for people to understand that we all have a point in time where we are not in balance, and we allow others, based on that sensibility of the empath, to have a say in our lives. I'm a type of person that I would ask questions, and I ask questions without expecting a specific answer. And I will hear that answer, and I will, in my head, brainstorm about it. So when Abba brought to my attention, would you ever forgive the people that have hurt you the most? I said, well, I once did. And I hope that person is doing good, even though it was the person that put me through the worst time of my life. The person did it from an unhealed wound. And that person kept on living, and I kept on living. And I don't feel attachments to that person anymore, based on the fact that I understood it wasn't love. So why is there so much difficulty within humanity? Casper is here. That happens a lot in my watch. So what is so difficult about humanity to actually find the ability to forgive truly from their hearts? Because we have been indoctrinated and taught by professionals certain things, which some of them are true. There are people that you just need to close the door and don't open it anymore. But there's other people that you can see through their masks, that you know who they are, and you allow them to experience life. Not because you're hoping for anyone to come back to your life, because you want to see them doing better in life for themselves. So part of unconditional love in the Tower of Babylon is that little by little, things are gonna start fitting in the puzzle. And it's gonna become a new era where indoctrination is gonna lose its power. There still is gonna be a lot of people that is gonna be indoctrinated, because that is bigger than anyone in this world. It's everywhere. But it's gonna allow parents to actually help their kids not go to the things they went through. A lot of people repeat patterns. We're not subject to not repeating patterns. All of us are. But it is our decision if we want to break those patterns or continue to live the same lie that others lived. I like people that has depth. If I encounter someone that has depth in what they speak, but they live their life from a false sense, I'm not interested in engaging. Not because I believe that I'm better than anyone, it's just because I like wisdom, I like knowledge. And it's fun because at times we go in repetitive cycles when we think that things are going to work a specific way if you do a specific thing. And those are the indoctrinated parts of us that we need to start letting go little by little. So it was easy for me to see it in others until I said, there's something wrong in here. I need to see myself. And the worst part of everybody going through an awakening is not seeing yourself, is confronting yourself, is asking yourself, what can you do to become a better person? Not because you want to be liked by anyone. Don't get me wrong. Lesson learned. I don't give a crowd if people like me or not, because all of my life it has been the same scenario. People hate me, and then they say, oh, you know what? I thought that you were stuck up. I thought that you were arrogant. I thought that you were this, you were that, but you're nice. So it's the same story all over again, and I just learned to ignore it. Yet there was something that Abba had in mind for us to see. And it's important that we understand it. Is the freedom that comes from being authentic. The freedom that comes from being unique. That the people that point a finger at you, they might do it because they're projecting, or they might do it because there is something in you they're seeing that can be not change, but there's an opportunity in there. And at times we become so independent because of the way that we were raised, right? That we believe that there should be a power struggle. And that's where I don't play that game. If anyone comes to my side trying to show their power as a masculine, that doesn't run with me. And it doesn't run with me for one reason and one reason only. a person that needs to impose their power as a masculine is because they still have an unhealed wound with mom. So when I pointed the finger back at me, I said, oh, I do have a dad wound. So that's why I act this and this and this way. And I started not brainstorming, not killing my head with it, but understanding more than meets the eye. My mom always said, when she's silent, be careful, because when she comes back, she's going to come back with a smack. And the reason why is because she knows me. She knows that I'm a type of person that I don't do things to fit in. Used to when I was little, because I was told that I was different. That's why I don't allow people to box me in within their own narrow mindset. But I listen to people and I try to see, what am I projecting that is allowing that person to think I am this way? And then I go and turn it around and I say, why are they projecting that my presence, my way of speaking, and my authority and sovereignty bothers them about me? And it's fun because it is an interaction with yourself, but with your higher self, where you see the little girl or the little boy that was affected by a situation. You see mom and dad through unconditional love, and you understand their unhealed wounds. And then from there, you start breaking those walls, opening your heart, and allowing yourself to experience people. At one point in life, we all have that lock and key to our heart. And it's not because we don't want to love, because everybody's like, literally, not everybody, but the majority of the people believe that love is joy and that's their happiness. And that's the problem. Happiness is not what another can do for you. Today, I was speaking to an artist that is the most amazing painter that I've seen in a while. And I started laughing at myself at how many times I doubted my own gifts just because I was scared others were going to say I was crazy or whatever. And I held back, not because I didn't have the knowledge or the wisdom, but because in times I thought that I could offend somebody by just being blunt and telling them the truth. Then the other part of it came. I started just being blunt. And at that point, I saw the duality that we humans go through. And it's called duality because there's two sides. And when there's two sides, you're not aligned. You're not in balance. You have two sides that are fighting with each other. The ego telling you this is the way to go because that's what I'm used to do. And then the spirit telling you, it's like, this is unconditional love. This is how you should do things. And then the world comes and tells you so many things that are so different that a lot of people don't find ever the truth. They keep on being seekers all the life and they stop living. There is a time for everything in life, and the Bible specifies it very, very, very good. By the way, I want to go and pull up this chapter of the Bible because I think we're missing something in there. Let me just try to pull it up and see, because there is something else that he's nudging right now that we need to see. 7. What is it? Guys, this is how Abba working about chapter, and now he for and every man's heart shall melt. I always said that I didn't like when a preacher in the pulpit and makes his all his preaching about one verse, because there is something very important about the Bible. The Bible is not a verse. The Bible is a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Each chapter has a character or several characters that act exactly like we humans do. From ego, from whatever, they can start spiritual, they go to ego, and then they break the ego pattern, and then they become unconditionally loving, and they restore, like God restores them, or they restore themselves because they're in alignment. So for Abba to point, Casper doesn't want the message to go out, but it's going to go out regardless. So for Abba to point verse 7 on Isaiah 13, therefore shall all hands be faint, and every man's heart shall melt. That is what we're talking about here. Being a channeler is not something that only one person can do. All of us can do it. And I'm living proof of it. And there's friends of mine that have been able to do it as well. We all have that gift inside of us. It's called discernment and intuition. And it's connected to us by a higher power that comes from energy. There is a saying that they say out there very often in the healing community, and is that you attract how you vibrate. And that is not true all the time. That's why I want empaths to understand, because you are an empath, you have a light that others don't have. So you're going to pull the attention of the people seeking for the light. And if you don't know, like it happened to me, how to put boundaries on the energies they bring to the existence or to the interaction, you can end up absorbing them. Now, as a healer, I sometimes purposely do it. I absorb that energy because I or something that the person has to heal, and it's difficult for them to heal. But I've learned the hard way that that is going against the free will of people. So I stopped doing it because I don't want to be in the other side of the equation when it comes to Abba and the energies and polarity and cause and effect and all that. So it's beautiful because he follows that with saying, and they shall be afraid. Pangs and sorrows shall take hold of them. They shall be in pain as a woman that travaileth. They shall be amazed one at another. Their faces shall be as flames. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, cruel both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. We're talking about Babylon here. This is not pointing at anybody. Um, Babylon is the structure of our temples. That false structure that's gonna fall soon, and I've been prophesying this for years now. Just that I didn't know when that was going to happen, but I do know now it's going to happen soon because of the energy that is coming up. And that energy, well, guys, the light effects that you're seeing right there, that's the Casper that lives in this house. That light is brand new. See? Light is brand new. They just like to play tricks because they don't want us to speak, because they think that we're going to be scared or afraid. But there's others that are like good entities. This one is a good entity. It's just a little mischievous, like this one right here. So I understand it and I allow it to happen. But you can command these things to leave. It's just that I know they're protecting me. Regardless of that, everybody is so engaged with the 3 whatever Atlas thing. And if you continue to read this chapter, you're going to understand what I'm saying. Just go to verse 9 and 10 and you're going to understand. Actually, let's see how long we have been here, because I don't want to make this too long. Still have a few minutes. We're at 40 right now, but it gets boring for people to listen to long speeches. Regardless, there's an essence in this message, and we're going to actually do what Abba says, not what people like. That's the way I roll. So it says, we're moving to verse 9. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh cruel. Oh, no, we already read that. So the next one is 10, right? It says, for the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. How can I put this? Let me just finish reading this. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and I will lay low their haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. In essence, let's summarize it, because it's going to be too long if we keep on going. Nobody changes for anybody else, but there comes a time in life where a person identifies with the freedom of living without shackles and living without falseness, and they remember who they are. And they remember who they are because that is the path. And the path will break you open or make you choose the path. Not because you're forced to, because your soul is requesting it. And your soul requested because they know you're not being true to yourself. They know that you have been putting up a show. It's fun because people tend to say things like, be the main character of your story. For me, that denotates a little bit of arrogance or pride, but at the same time, a lot of knowledge and wisdom. Reason why is the following. If you're gonna create a false image to uphold an image in front of others, your own actions, your own words, and your own reactions are going to unmask you and unveil you in front of everyone. So you're fighting to hide your true self because you're scared of being hurt. But at the same time you're trying to do that, you're just showing everyone how fragile and sweet you are deep inside. The thing with humanity is, let's say when a man sees a woman that's in their power or that has authority in their speech, and they are accustomed to think that a woman has to be submissive because they don't understand what submissive means. They believe that they are the ones that have to be in control or have the force of voice, the force of planning, and the force of actioning. And that is why there are so many couples that end up splitting. For a woman to allow herself to be in the submissive aspect, the man has to be in their sovereign aspect as well as them. So when a woman is sovereign and finds a sovereign man, that's why it's easy to see one another as equals. But when a man is unaligned and a woman is unaligned, they're going to see themselves as either competition or a power struggle. And I was listening to that today in different things that I saw. And I was asking about why he was presenting that. And it's very simple. At the end of the